Has not one of the poets said that a noble friend is the best gift, and a noble enemy the next best? When we hate our enemies, we are giving them power over us, power over our sleep, our appetites, our blood pressure, our health, and our happiness. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity. We must, therefore, acquiesce in the necessity, which denounces our separation, and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace friends. My high charms work, and these, mine enemies, are all knit up in their distractions. They now are in my power. When we hate our enemies, we are giving them power over us, power over our sleep, our appetites, our blood pressure, our health, and our happiness. The will of God, to which the law gives expression, is that men should defeat their enemies by loving them. We do not merely destroy our enemies, we change them. You provided us with a common enemy. You allied us. The important thing in strategy is to suppress the enemy's useful actions but allow his useless actions. What about Jacob? What was I going to do about him? My former best friend who was now, what? My enemy? My only love sprung from my only hate. Thus the expert in battle moves the enemy, and is not moved by him. Miss Everdeen, I thought we had agreed not to lie to each other. You can love a person dear to you with a human love, but an enemy can only be loved with divine love. The greatest enemy is one that has nothing to lose. Enjoy thy triumph, soon or late thou'lt find thou art an enemy to thyself. That was a tough year. I wasn't liked at all, he later said. I demanded they do better, so I made a lot of enemies. It was an odd thing, but true, that the death of an enemy could affect you almost as much as the death of a friend. Then justice is the art which gives good to friends and evil to enemies. A man can condemn his enemies, but it's wiser to know them. Since when do you have to tell the enemy when he has won? It is perilous to study too deeply the arts of the enemy, for good or for ill. It is perilous to study too deeply the arts of the enemy, for good or for ill. When the white man dies, he thinks he is at peace, but the red men know how to torture even the ghosts of their enemies. The most dangerous enemy is not the one who lingers behind you in the shadows, but the one who walks beside you as a friend. Man is the only real enemy we have. Remove man from the scene, and the root cause of hunger and overwork is abolished forever. Lord, protect me from my friends. I can take care of my enemies. The most dangerous enemy is that which no one fears. I suppose I'll have to add the force of gravity to my list of enemies. It is easy to love your friend, but sometimes the hardest lesson to learn is to love your enemy. Treachery and violence are spears pointed at both ends. They wound those who resort to them worse than their enemies. If you don't make a few enemies every now and then, you're a coward. In the moment when I truly understand my enemy, understand him well enough to defeat him, then in that very moment I also love him. That's stupid, I thought swiftly, they'd both come here to fight and they're both supposed to be smarter than that. What difference does the side make? Thus whole nations are roused to arms. Thus the Turks repel their enemies, the Arabs of the Sudan break the British squares, and the rising on the Indian frontier spreads far and wide. In each case civilization is confronted with militant Mohammedanism. There are two things I'm quite certain of, I remarked, as we discussed the day's doings while we brushed and plaited our hair. I shall dislike Ernestine Salt exceedingly, but I've simply fallen in love with Catherine Winstanley. The jealousy of a free people ought to be constantly awake, since history and experience prove that foreign influence is one of the most baneful foes of republican government. Stamp, your name is to be Laura. I'm sharing my name with you. I'm putting my power into you and you must do my work. Don't listen to anyone but me. You are to be my command laid on my enemy.